Welcome to the Conshy Coaching Podcast, where we take the concepts of mindset and energy leadership coaching and make them real so that you can get out of your own way, beat the burnout, and create a life and career that you love. I'm your host, Jenn Masse. Hello, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Conshy Coaching Podcast. Today, I have Susan Phinney, certified energy leadership coach and owner of Compass Coaching, joining me. Susan and I met in our first in-person coach training weekend and are now partnering with a third coach to offer comprehensive and dynamic corporate leadership trainings. Getting to know Susan has been amazing because she's always high energy, is a great coach, and she brings so much experience to the table. Susan partners with individuals to successfully navigate personal and professional transitions with focused energy and high satisfaction. She's also a speaker, a change management practitioner, and consults with businesses on leadership development, change management, and organizational design and effectiveness. Susan, I'm so happy to have you on today's show.
Thank you for having me, Jen.
So I would love for you to introduce yourself further and tell us what you're doing or working on now.
Certainly. I am a new business owner. I recently left my longtime corporate gig with a very large healthcare company, and I have gone out on my own because I am pursuing what makes me most happy. So, in my practice, I'm providing tailored coaching services to individuals looking to maximize their performance through personal leadership in both their professional and their personal lives. So, dealing with any transition, whether it's taking on a new role, retiring to a new chapter in your life, moving house, or starting a new relationship, all these things require that you consciously and decisively take action to effectively navigate the transition and to attain the outcome that you want. I work with my clients to break down their objective and advance their plan to accelerate the outcome they're seeking. So, in addition to serving my individual clients, I continue to partner with other coaches building offerings for organizations. I'm passionate about this because of the high value it brings to leaders across all businesses. And with today's level of change, I find the need for coaching is greater than ever. Whether personally or professionally, everyone needs a coach at different points in their life.
Yeah, you know what, Susan? I can't agree more that everybody needs a coach, whether they're going through a transition, trying to get promoted at work, or going through anything else. Having a coach is so incredibly powerful. And my eyes were definitely opened up to that when I started my energy leadership coaching journey. And I'm curious, when were you first introduced to working with a coach and to energy leadership?
So that's a two-part question for me, and it's a great one, Jen. So I had worked over 25 years in a global healthcare company, quickly moving up and across function and leadership roles that provided me great experience. Throughout, I found that a key success factor was the availability of mentors and coaches. While coaching my staff, I became an internally certified coach and then worked across the organization with leaders for over 10 years. During that time, I focused on tools such as 360-degree feedback, providing individuals information on their strengths and opportunities to become more effective, powerful leaders. Now, I first learned about the Energy Leadership Index as part of my training with iPEC. So, as part of their core curriculum, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching educated me on energy leadership, adding an entirely new dimension in coaching for me. The timing of this was fortuitous in my life, as during my last year at corporate, I'd become very unhappy about my role as we were going through yet another downsizing. Going to iPEC was meant to be. So I was feeling disenfranchised and miserable. So I had been reflecting on what did and did not make me happy, identifying that the one constant that I had been passionate about was coaching. So I wanted to become a more powerful coach, and after a lot of research, signed up for the coaching training with iPEC. So on day one, I remember walking in there and feeling validated when both levels of energy were given a name, a new name for me. Rather than positive and negative, it was anabolic and catabolic. I could see myself and how I was showing up in my job and realized that the situation was not in alignment with my personal values. It wasn't that I had suddenly turned into a bad employee, although I was incredibly unhappy. As I learned about the energetic perception, its influencers, and the notion of choice, I saw what had been driving my feelings of unhappiness and dissatisfaction and felt validated in moving my plans to become a professional coach forward. So, a lot of self reflection, a lot of questioning internally before I even got there, and then validation, which through the tools and the techniques that we use at iPEC made me feel terrific. So, integrating the ELI into my coaching toolbox provides a foundational and more powerful coaching experience for my clients, raising their awareness about how they're energetically showing up and how they choose to energetically engage in their future, whether it be with their families, friends, and colleagues. Understanding the benefits and consequences of each energy level allows clients to sustainably apply what they've learned through our coaching process, which is a big win because it's something that's not unique or specific to a role or activity, but it's broadly applicable in their lives. And again, this makes it much more powerful and it enables our clients to go back having learned something that they can apply again and again.
Yeah, so you know what's so interesting about that is I had a very similar experience where I didn't realize that there was this word catabolic and anabolic, that there are these types of energy. And when those concepts were brought forth to me, it was the same reflection of, oh my gosh, I'm not a bad employee. I'm just not energetically engaged in what I'm doing. And as you were speaking just then, it triggered the energetic model of engagement, which really shows that if you have a lot of catabolic energy and you're not really interested in what you're doing anymore, then you're not going to be engaged and you're not going to be showing up in the way that best serves you or the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
So, finding something that aligns with your values can help you get more buy in into what you're doing. And I can hear the excitement in your voice when you talk about being in alignment with your values and coaching people. So, it's just super exciting. I personally am thrilled that you found iPEC because that's how we met, and excited to see where this journey takes us and how it can also help our listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen. It's been a pleasure to work with you too so far.
So you dove into some of the concepts of energy leadership coaching already when you were talking about the two types of energy and the different levels of energy and how it's helped you. But there's also different aspects of energy leadership coaching. So we have the levels, we have the two types. We also have the 6 areas of influence with the Schmepsies. We have 10 core disciplines, foundation principles, and so on. And I'm curious what concept has helped or resonated with you the most.
Sure. So I will tell you, they're all powerful concepts, but I have embraced the discipline of fearlessness. So I'm willing to take reasonable chances without worry or doubt, realizing that fear does not exist in the present moment, and whatever is unfolding will ultimately serve me. So whether it's a success or a failure, there really isn't anything to lose. I'm going to learn from it, and therefore there's nothing to fear. So, in redesigning my life's work, launching my coaching practice versus retaining a role in a large corporation, I know that there will be days when there are ups and downs. So, first of all, life will not be a monotone, which thrills me to death. I am continuously learning, and my self development is important to me. It aligns with my values. It also affords me many benefits that I left on the table in my corporate roles. So, by redesigning my life, I can spend more time with the people that I love. I have an ability to network and engage with people outside of my company and my family on a regular basis. I enjoy their diverse perspectives and gifts. and I also have more time for self-care. I've reconnected with myself, and I have and will continue to connect with others, learning, which for me makes life a much richer tapestry, and I enjoy it that much more. Now, on the flip side, in launching my coaching practice, it can be scary sometimes. This is a business. But like a roller coaster, you always have the thrill of the ride, and ultimately, at some point, you come to a gentle stop or pause.
I love that analogy.
Now, I would tell you that this core discipline also meshes with the foundation principle that relates most for me to that concept. So I'm a firm believer that each person we meet is our teacher and student.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned previously, I benefited from the exposure to the diverse gifts of all those coming in and exiting my life. Sometimes people are in there for a long time, sometimes for a short time, but I continually learn from those I have relationships with, and I really value the perspective and strengths or gifts that they bring. It helps me go from going stale. It helps me be a more powerful coach when I have my eyes opened up and I realize there's more than just this one lens to look through. And I think ultimately it makes our relationships more valuable to each other.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, and I also really love that foundation principle because there's so many times where I'll be coaching somebody and they'll say something and it's like an aha moment for me. And it's exactly to that point is everybody is both our teacher and our student. So while I may be teaching the concepts of energy leadership coaching and helping them embrace and put that into practice in their own life, they are opening my
Hmm.
eyes to either teaching me to be a better coach or coming up with an idea during a brainstorming session for something that I would have never thought of, but now I can put that in my back pocket. So if another client down the line is struggling with a similar issue, I now have a new tool or an idea that I can offer during a brainstorming session because of what I learned from my own client. So absolutely.
Hmm. There are also other aspects that folks bring to the table. So I think about our coaching group, Jen, and having come from a long-term engagement with larger corporate America, you get into a routine of doing things a specific way. And being more senior in my role there, I've built up that kind of book of practice over time. Working with you as someone who is younger and more attuned to things like social media, I find huge benefit in working with you in terms of how we source our business and perspective of marketing and things that will be important to us all as we move our practices forward. I don't think you can underestimate the value of collaborating and networking with others.
Yeah. And connection really is at the basis of human life. If you look back in time, connection is what has always held us together. It's one of my core values. And to your point, you can never underestimate the value of connection and collaboration. And I believe collaboration and connection really, I think that's an energy level 6, if I'm thinking correctly here,
Yes.
where we are all connected to each other. And when we're in level 6, we're really in flow because of that connection.
Hmm. That's right.
So, tell me about your experience in working with an energy leadership coach. How has their insight into your life helped you grow above and beyond what you learned in coach training?
Oh, I have some really good examples I can give you.
Yeah, please do.
So, first, working with my coaching colleagues helps me sharpen my skills as a coach. Again, I see diverse perspectives and I listen to understand their perspective because, again, this enriches my coaching ability. It also keeps me moving forward, as in some cases, I wanted someone to hold me accountable for a challenging decision that I'd been putting off. While I knew what I needed to do, I was delaying addressing what is really an incredible opportunity in an area that I didn't have any prior expertise. However, in talking it out with my coach, I articulated a plan and placed timeframes against delivery. So I had the plan inside me all the time, and I was, having a type A mentality. Putting dates on a calendar drove me forward. So through this process, I was holding myself accountable for delivery, knowing that my coach was going to follow up, ensuring action. But I had asked to be held accountable, and I appreciated the fact that someone would engage with me in that way. In another instance, I realized that I was stuck regarding a technology situation. So think of this as being at the bottom of the basement stairs, looking up the stairway, but not moving. So I was being too apathetic to climb the stairs to get where I wanted to go, even knowing that I wanted to get there. So I reached out for help. And in working with a coach, I realized that I was battling both an energy block or a limiting belief that made me less enthusiastic about trying to break through my technology barrier. And as we deconstructed my inertia, I realized that I had to overcome the limiting belief and address a key influencer as well, lack of knowledge about my technology initiative. So one might call this an environmental issue due to a training need. So once I recognized this, I put together a plan that made sense from a learning strategy so that I could ultimately deliver my own objective. But having a coach in my corner, someone interested in my agenda, made a big difference in both cases.
Yeah, and you bring up the limiting belief about the technology, which is a huge energy block,
Mhm.
and then how that tied into the environmental influencer, one of the Schmepsies. And it's so interesting to see how our energy is connected because that one aspect of needing more training to be able to confidently and fearlessly approach the technology piece in your business, that was a block for you. So with working with a coach, you were able to uncover that block and be like, oh, it's not that I'm bad at it. It's just that I need a little bit more training. So rather than being afraid and avoiding, I can now go get trained and confidently create a plan to launch my website and address the social media piece and some other aspects that I know you've been interested in doing.
Exactly, exactly. So reaching out for that help, again, having a coach in my corner, as well as talking to people who are gifted or experienced in those areas, really helped a lot.
Yeah. And, as you were talking, I was also thinking back to one of the times that you coached me, and it's all about reframing, where I don't know if you remember, but it was when I was really struggling with that final decision of taking the step away from corporate. And I kept saving and saving and saving my money. And
Yes.
in my head, I wasn't allowed to touch the money that I had saved because that was a rule I had created for myself. And you helped me reframe it to say, I'm allowed to touch my money when I'm investing in something, and starting a business is an investment. So through the help of a coach and through the help of you, I was able to reframe this block I had. And as soon as I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, right, this is an investment. This is like buying a house or buying a car. This is a big investment. I'm not just willy nilly, buying a new pair of shoes here. And having a coach to help us reframe and kind of dig out from underneath the heap of crap that we've been telling us is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. And I remember that vividly.
It was such an aha moment. So thank you so much for helping me with that.
You're welcome. And thank you for the help with technology.
So you had mentioned that currently you are pursuing what makes you most happy, both with your career and some other aspects in your life. And in just a couple days, you and I will be flying down to Miami, Florida to go to the World Happiness Summit, which I am incredibly excited for. But I'm curious, what are you looking forward to?
So there are two things. So first of all, I'm really looking forward to warm, sunny weather with color in the area.
But yes, we've been lucky this winter, but color would be nice.
Yes, I have to admit that was one of my motivating factors when I saw the date for the World Happiness Seminar. But the summit has two sections that I'm really interested in attending. The first one is a discussion called The Resilient Quest: Sustaining Hope, Generating Meaning, and Igniting Courage, with Dr. Maria Soroy. I think this is a critical topic because we are seeing everywhere so many people, the millennials, Gen Xers, have a much higher level anxiety than others who are older than they are at this point did at those points in their career. And with all the other elements going on around the world, our politics, global climate change, anxiety and developing courage is something that I think need to be addressed formally and frequently.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece that I'm looking forward to, given that, part of the goal of the summit is to create platforms for individuals to learn how to build science-based happiness practices. And I know Luke Lorio is holding a breakout session entitled How to Implement the World Happiness Summit Content in Your Practice as a Coach. So I want it for myself. I want it for my family and my friends. I want it for my colleagues and those I coach. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. How about you, Jen?
So I also am really excited in the science aspect. And I love that the World Happiness Summit is a combination of both energy leaders and those who study positive psychology.
Mhm,
Because I think having a growth mindset and having that resilience is so important. Because to your point, everybody is facing so much more anxiety these days. And I think it's because we're in such a go, go, go environment where we have a lot more things being thrown at us. Where back in the day, you left work and you left work at work because you didn't have a computer to take home, you didn't have a cell phone to take home with you.
mhm,
Now we're carrying, in some cases, two devices. If we have a work cell phone and a personal cell phone, if we're not lucky enough to have two devices, we have our work stuff on our personal device. So you literally cannot put it away. And it's becoming a lot harder to say no. But as humans, and especially as women, it's really difficult to say no because we're very heart centered and we want to give. So I'm really excited to hear what some of the speakers have to say about coming up with a growth mindset and resilience to create boundaries to live a happier life and
mhm,
to be able to put that science into my own practice to help my clients with the same things, because it seems like everybody has the same underlying root issue. It's presented in multiple different ways, but I see time and time again that it's, I don't have enough time. I can't pursue what I want. I don't know how to set boundaries.
mhm,
And I am just so excited to learn more about that and how to incorporate that into my own practice and personally in my own life so that I can confidently and fearlessly set my own boundaries and help my clients do the same.
mhm. It's interesting to me that you use the word fearless because I was thinking about this when you were saying setting boundaries. Because having a practice of my own now and not being linked to, say, specific leadership back at my former corporation, when I see them and engage with them on some potential work efforts, I don't pull any punches anymore. And people have looked at me and said, "Wow, that's a lot of straight talk." And I said, absolutely. We both have limited time, and so we need to be able to set up these boundaries and outline what we're talking about from soup to nuts here so that we're very clear on what we're going to do and how we're going to proceed.
Yeah.
So I applaud the effort for the World Happiness Summit. I think it will help us in many ways and probably ways we haven't even thought about yet.
Yeah. And boundaries, I feel like that's something that we could easily take a whole podcast episode and talk about boundaries. And it's really, it's not only meeting with people, like you said, like here's our hour together, let's nail down an agenda and maximize our time. But it's also how do we set boundaries so that we don't let work trickle into the things that we love, especially as small business owners, where it's so easy to be like, oh, I have the whole day to do what I want. I don't have to shove it into a 9 to 5. And as you know, at this point, I am holding my yoga time very sacred to me because if I don't, then things will trickle into that. And I'll end up with networking events then or meetings then. And then I will lose the benefit of owning my own business, which is the time and flexibility to go to yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So setting a boundary and honoring that like a sacred space is so important.
Yes. And I know you're familiar with the term multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the term micro slicing?
No, do tell.
So there is a premise that you cannot really multitask, that what you're doing is you're doing little tiny bits of multiple things, but one at a time. Therefore, you can't, because of your lack of focus, you can't really do anything well. That if you really focus on one thing at a time and keep that focus narrow, finish something and move on, you're better off than you are multitasking or micro slicing.
I like that. And it's interesting as you started speaking, I haven't heard it in that term. And I love that term. I have coached a couple people on their multitasking tendencies. And there's a great TED Talk about multitasking that goes into a lot more detail about what you just said, which is when you micro slice, your attention can't fully be diverted into what you're doing. So it's better to just spend 30-minute chunks than 5 minutes here and there and pretending like you're doing it all at once, because you're not. So, Susan, I do have one more question for you before we wrap up today. What is one piece of advice for anyone that wants to live greater?
Great question. I would say or recommend that individuals get to know yourself. We have a tool called the Energy Leadership Index Assessment that it'll help you better learn and validate and baseline where you are energetically today. And then working with a coach to understand the energy levels, you can reflect on the results and then thoughtfully plan how you choose to influence your future. Understand that the ELI is not a predictive indicator. It just shows you current state, which is why I call it a baseline. So know that you have a choice in how you energetically show up and can have much greater influence and success in your life with this knowledge and understanding as you partner with an energy leadership coach. The tool is powerful. From someone who has been coaching for a long time, it has really changed my coaching practice and approach. And my clients feel that they walk away with much more in terms of tangible, sustainable practice that they can use going forward. Again, as I said earlier, it's not role specific, it's not task specific. You can broadly apply it in your life. The tool is powerful, and so are you. And you'll find out how powerful you are by going through it.
I absolutely love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Susan, thank you so much for joining me today on the Conshy Coaching Podcast. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for now, but I would love to have you back on the show in the future. We can talk about fearlessness. We can talk about what we learned at the World Happiness Summit. I feel like there's so much value that you have to bring. But for now, I do unfortunately have to cut it short, but I am very excited to have you on future episodes.
Thank you, Jen. It's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to reconnecting on your podcast soon.
That was episode 6 of the Conshy Coaching Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Susan Phinney and her business Compass Coaching, I have included her contact information in my speaker notes. If you'd like to learn more about mindset and energy leadership coaching or the Energy Leadership Index Assessment, please visit my website at conshycoaching.com or subscribe to my channel and join my weekly email list so that you never miss an episode or a blog post. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful day.